Part 44. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 431. Zuyun couldn't be sure. After thinking about it, he entered the fairy mansion and found the three dogs in the pasture. After talking to him, he called Lao Ma again and told Lao Ma his guess. Suddenly, Lao Ma was extremely nervous. No one knew Lao Zu better than him. If the single person is taken away by Zhu Feng using the demon refining tower, no one will know what will happen. Master, please save Lao Zu. Lao Ma was so anxious that he knelt down directly in front of Zuyun. Without any coercion or inducement, a majestic demon king knelt down to Zuyun for the second time for Lao Zu. This scene made Jinjiao also greatly surprised. He naturally knew that Lao Zu and Lao Ma had been inseparable since they were in the demon refining tower, and their relationship was very good. But how can he, who has always been alone, know the emotions between two demons who have been dependent on each other for life and death since childhood? What is even more incomprehensible is Zhao Kamang, because he turned from a human into a demon and has human mind and thoughts. Especially when he learned from Jinjiao that Lao Ma was also the demon king. But Zuyun felt the same in his heart. He couldn't help but think of the relationship between himself and Big Dog and Ergu, and couldn't help but take part in it. If one of them really has a problem, they will definitely try their best to save him. Okay, I promise you. Zuyun agreed directly without hesitation. He originally told Lao Ma that he wanted to use Sangu to determine Lao Zu's location. In the absence of any tokens from Lao Zu, Sangu could only identify Lao Zu sent from Lao Ma. If Lao Zu can really be saved, maybe Lao Ma can convince Lao Zu to also recognize him as the master. In this way, his own protection will be even greater. Thank you, master. The old horse kowtowed quickly, but was stopped by Zuyun. Then he called the three dogs and said, "Smell if there is any smell of another demon king on him, and go out and help me find it later." The three dogs stepped forward and sniffed the old horse carefully. Woof woof. Seeing this determined look, Zuyun showed a relaxed smile, then helped the old horse up and said, "Three dogs recognized it, I will inform you if there is any news. But you still need to be prepared at any time. Zhu Feng, that kid, has caused trouble for thousands of years, and there is also the demon refining tower. Master, don't worry, as long as I can save Lao Zu, I can do it." Lao Ma slapped his chest loudly. Zuyun said no more, but left the immortal mansion with the three dogs and returned to the bottom of the cliff again. Later, he turned into a metal spirit body in order to communicate with the three dogs. "Master, it should be in the north." It took a long time, and it took three dogs a full stick of incense to distinguish them. "Okay, let's go quickly." Zuyun was overjoyed and was about to turn back into a human form when he heard Sangu say, "Master, don't be in a hurry. Just listen to me. The aura of Lao Zu is here and has not gone away, which means that he was probably taken into the demon refining tower. I used the smell of the demon refining tower to identify the direction." Zuyun suddenly frowned, pondered for a moment, and said, "It seems that this boy Zhu Feng is really quite capable. His control over the demon refining tower is definitely different from that of the Lord of Naihuo City at that time. I saw with my own eyes that Jinjiao would not let the Lord of Naihuo City go. In my eyes, Zhu Feng could take Lao Zu away so easily. I'm afraid it won't be easy." Sangu pointed to the ground and said, "There are still traces of fighting here." But it didn't last long. Zuyun looked down and touched his nose. It seemed that he was still not careful enough. "But yes, in the dark night, I was a little anxious just now, so I inevitably ignored it." After instructing Sangu to convey the news to Lao Ma, Zuyun quickly flew towards the north. However, he did not return to human form, but used the golden escape technique. If he meets Zhu Feng unexpectedly, his vigilance can be dispelled to some extent, and there may be a way to kill him. At this time, Zhu Yun no longer had any sympathy for Zhu Feng. He escaped one after another, and with such a treasure in hand, and he is a strange and unpredictable demon cultivator, who knows what he can do. But Zhu Yun ran all the way until dawn and left the Zhuhao Mountains, but no trace of Zhu Feng was found. As everyone knows, after Zhu Feng took in Lao Zhu, he went all the way north to Peepa Realm. If you take the form of a spirit body at this time, you will be easily discovered by others and cause trouble. Zhu Yun sighed slightly, turned back into human form, and had already arrived at the junction of Yao and Bing states. This is where he trapped Zhu Feng with the 9 turns and 9 suns formation and the self-destruction chain formation. At this time, he could not sense any formation, and he was even more sure that Zhu Feng must have escaped from here. After staring for a long time, Zhu Yun retracted his gaze and headed towards Wanjian Mountain to search for Zhu Fengzi, only to find several withered corpses left at the north intersection. His pupils shrank, which was no different from someone who was absorbed to death by Zhu Feng's magic power. Zhu Yun didn't hesitate and quickly dropped down and ran over. If you look closely, you will see that there is not much dust on the mummy's protective clothing. It is obvious that it has not been dead for long. It's Zhu Feng. Zhu Yun's eyes showed a fierce light and he called out the 3 dogs again. Master, I'm pretty sure he went to Peepa Realm. At that time, I escaped from Peepa Realm through this road. Sangu said with certainty. Okay, then you go with me. If you can find his scent, be alert in time. The 3 dogs couldn't fly, and Zhu Yunruo's flying boat was too conspicuous, so he simply walked there 1 person and 1 dog. The road leading to Peepa Realm is a valley. According to Sangu, this valley is more than 5,000 miles long, and this is the only one. The rolling hills on both sides are said to have a mysterious suppressive power that prevents anyone from walking through the mountains. But because of this, they walked all the way to Peepa Realm without finding Zhu Feng. As everyone knows, Zhu Feng had already made up his mind to go to the Peepa Realm. After absorbing the vitality and spiritual power of the 3 monks at the intersection, he rushed all the way to the demon refining tower without stopping. When Zhu Yun arrived, he didn't know where he was. Is this the Peepa Realm? Zhu Yun looked straight ahead and took a greedy breath. The air is full of rich spiritual power. Yeazhu and even the entire Yao kingdom are far behind. Woof woof. The 3 dogs also barked twice excitedly. When he revisited his old place, he also had mixed feelings in his heart. By the way, Zhu Yun asked after hearing the barking of the 3 dogs, can you still smell Zhu Feng's scent now? Sangu shook his head. Zhu Yun didn't ask more why, so he could only give up for now. Maybe it's been so long that the smell has dissipated. It may also be that the rich spiritual power of the Peepa Realm quickly assimilated Zhu Feng's aura. Then tell me, where is the best place for me to go? The Fire Dragon Sect. Zhu Yun remembered that Sangu escaped from the Fire Dragon section when he learned about the Fire Dragon sect. He felt that he could sneak in and see if Fen Tianyang could absorb more fire power and become stronger. Although Fen Tianyang can still slowly become stronger by staying in the Fire Spirit Pearl, the Fire Spirit power absorbed in the volcanic belt has been almost exhausted. In addition, the Fire Dragon sect is good at refining alchemy and weapon refining. The Ice Tornado scroll that I previously learned from the Tianfu fragment requires ice spiritual power. Maybe the Fire Dragon sect has the main medicine of the Ice Spirit pill. It seems that the Fire Dragon sect must go. Woof woof. Sangu also agreed with Zhu Yun to go to the Fire Dragon sect. Zhu Yun asked Sangu to point in the direction of the Fire Dragon sect, which was more than 3,000 miles northwest of here. Putting away the black sword, Zhu Yun took out the fan. Perhaps no one in Yeazhu would recognize the mysteries of the black sword, but since pill formation is rampant in the Peepa realm, and there is even an ancestor of nascent soul, it is better to keep a low profile. This fan is a high-grade magic weapon, which is consistent with his realm. Zhu Yun flew all the way, and after more than 1,000 miles, he saw a city. After thinking for a moment, he settled down. Although Sangu also came out of the Peepa realm, he was just a watchdog after all, and he escaped from here and didn't know much about the Peepa realm. After all, he was still unfamiliar with this place. Moreover, I don't know if the Fire Dragon sect will accept the disciples, especially monks like him who have reached the elixir forming stage. Rather than going there rashly, it is better to inquire about some information in Fangxi. This city is not small, it can be said to be a small town. Zuyun fell far away and then walked towards Fangxi. But as soon as he stepped onto the street, he found that the nearest shop was crowded with monks. It was crowded inside, but there were still people outside trying to squeeze in. If it weren't for the words Beast Pet Pavilion hanging above the door, looking at the expressions of these people, Zuyun almost thought that these people were going in to steal some supreme treasure. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly remembered what he had said to the little demon fox Qiu Qi at Shiwanda Mountain. There are forces selling monster beasts in the Peepa realm, among which the demon fox clan is the most popular. Could it be a fox demon? Zuyun's heart thumped and he stopped. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 432. Don't squeeze, those without an invitation, please pay 100 spirit stones as a guarantee before you can enter. At this time, a man suddenly walked out of the window on the second floor of the shop and shouted loudly to the people below. For a moment, everyone stopped what they were doing. It is hard to imagine that these Jindan stage cultivators looked no different from ordinary people at this time. Zuyun also stopped and looked up at the man who was speaking. He was dressed in green, with a hint of evil in his handsome face, but his tone revealed supreme majesty. The peak of the late Jindan stage. Just from the momentum, Zuyun immediately felt his realm. Seemingly noticing that someone was staring at him in a trance, the eyes of the late Jindan peak cultivator immediately swept towards Zuyun. Instantly, the four eyes met. Zuyun narrowed his eyes, thinking that although he needed to be low-key when he first arrived, he naturally couldn't fall behind when he wanted to enter the shop to see what was going on. So, he smiled easily and even clasped his fists and bowed. The young man smiled kindly and said, "Do you also want to see the fox demons being sold this time?" Instantly, all the Jindan stage cultivators at the door looked towards Zuyun. No good intentions. Zuyun suddenly realized that these people would break their heads to squeeze in, so they naturally wanted to compete for the fox demons. Then he would be their competitor, and it would be strange if he had good intentions. On the contrary, for the young man, he was a guest at the door, and he should treat him with courtesy. I just arrived here, and I saw that there were so many people here, so I just wanted to join in the fun. Facing so many Jindan stage cultivators, Zuyun didn't dare to cause any trouble. Who knows if there are Yuanying ancestors behind these people? After all, according to Qiu Qi, many cultivators in the Peepa realm force-fed fox demons to take the transformation pill, so that they could turn into human form for sexual pleasure. Even if the Yuanying ancestors wanted to do this, they probably wouldn't dare to come forward in person. When Zuyun said this, those Jindan stage cultivators put away their hostility and turned their heads away. As soon as the young man finished speaking, someone came out to maintain order. Basically everyone can enter. A visitor is a guest. I just happened to catch up with the annual auction of pets in my Beast Pet Pavilion. Why not take a look? Anyway, the 100 spirit stones guaranteed will be returned in full after the meeting is over. The young man continued to recruit after seeing Zuyun's words. Sorry, I don't know how to control beasts. Zuyun was cautious and said it in advance. Who knew that the young man would not give in, laughed and landed in front of Zuyun, and said warmly, "It doesn't matter if you don't understand. Our pavilion provides thoughtful service. After entering, I will naturally know the mystery." As he said that, he also showed a meaningful smile. Zuyun's heart was as clear as a mirror, but he didn't dare to expose it directly here. So he just went with the flow, so he said, since Daiyu invited me so kindly, I will go and take a look. Ha ha ha, that's great. Daiyu, please follow me. The young man made a gesture of invitation to Zuyun, motioning him to follow him. Soon, this scene attracted the envy of many people. Because the young man personally took Zuyun to the side door on the other side, instead of queuing at the main door like them. Zuyun frowned slightly, wondering why the young man treated him so differently, and couldn't help but hold the fan tightly. After all, the young man's realm was higher than Zuyun, and he immediately noticed Zuyun's actions and guessed what he was thinking, so he said, Daiyu looks very unfamiliar, I think it's your first time to my beast pet pavilion. As one of the deacons here, I will personally lead you and help you solve your doubts. Faced with the words of a stranger, Zuyun only half believed it, but still followed the young man into the side door. As soon as he stepped over the threshold, the view in front of him suddenly became clear. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary shop, but I never thought that there was something special inside. Zuyun also felt some of the power of the array, and couldn't help but observe it carefully. Do you know the array? Seeing Zuyun looking around, the young man asked with a flash of surprise. Zuyun immediately said, Array? What array? Why is your expression so surprised? The young man couldn't help but ask when he saw Zuyun denying it. It's so big inside, I was shocked. Zuyun laughed, he wanted to hide his shortcomings. This array is very mysterious, Zuyun thought he couldn't set it. If something unexpected happened and he needed to escape, whether he knew the array or not was enough to make the other party treat him differently. The young man was surprised, he didn't expect Zuyun to answer like this, but he was not an ordinary person, and it didn't matter to him whether he believed it or not. The important thing was that their beast pet pavilion was short of people. He had a sharp eye and had long seen that Zuyun was not a cultivator of the people realm. As long as this kind of casual cultivator can open his eyes and then promise benefits, he may join their beast pet pavilion and be used by them. Of course, it would be good if Zuyun could spend some spirit stones here, which would be considered as providing them with income. In short, it is not a loss-making business. Therefore, taking a side door and not accepting the spirit stones that will be returned in the end is not a big deal at all. I thought you knew about formations. The young man also laughed and introduced himself, saying, I am Zhen Wengziu, what is your name? You are polite. Zuyun also waved his hand and smiled casually, Chen Hua. The two-character name is still easy to use, Zuyun blurted it out without thinking about it. It turns out to be fellow Daoist Chen. There are other people sitting down here. Zhen will take you up to have a look. Following Zhen Wengziu to a staircase, the two of them climbed up and soon reached the second floor. Fellow Daoist Chen, please sit here for now. Zheng still needs to arrange some things. When the auction starts, Zheng will come here to accompany you again. After leading Zuyun to a small room, Zhen Wengziu said goodbye. He was so polite that it was impossible to tell that he was a monk at the peak of the late stage of pill formation. After he left, Zuyun put away his smile, walked to the window and looked down. In the distance, there is a wooden high platform that looks quite old. I don't know how many annual auctions have been held. I don't even know how many fox demons flowed out from here and became pets for the monks to play with. Zuyun retracted his gaze and sighed, then observed the room. After a moment, his expression became a little more solemn. There is also a formation in the hut, but this formation is not meant to trap people, and it has nothing to do with space, but a warning formation. He used the void-breaking spiritual eye technique to see through the formation patterns. After a while of analysis, he saw the effect of the formation. As long as you leave the house, this formation will immediately deliver the message somewhere. But nothing unusual will happen here. In this case, Zhen Wengziu also had intentions for him. Zuyun pondered for a moment and thought to himself, I didn't reveal my wealth, hostility, or identity. What's my intention? Is it for me? Are you kidding? They are selling animals, not people. Unable to think of a reason, Zuyun could only pay attention secretly. He used his spiritual sense through the ring and counted all the talismans, then stood at the window again and looked down. This time, he wanted to discover as much as possible the formation patterns and formation eyes of the formation below. If something unexpected happens and you want to leave this place, it will be too late if you break the formation at that time. After Zhen Wengxiu and Zuyun parted ways, they quickly turned a few corners on the second floor and walked to a small room. You found another casual cultivator. An old man fiddled with a compass in his hand and said calmly without raising his head. If Zuyun were here, he would definitely recognize that it was a formation disc. Yes, the shopkeeper, that boy looked like he came from that shabby place in Yao realm, so I just gave him 100 spirit stones and brought him in. Zhen Wengxiu, who was chatting and laughing in front of Zuyun, was very nervous in front of the old man. Well, you've done a good job. With this newcomer, you have already found more than 10 pill-forming periods this month. The old man then raised his head. Under his calm face, his eyes were as sharp as an eagle. Zhen Wengxiu didn't dare to look at her, so she quickly lowered her head and said, Wengxiu doesn't dare to claim credit. This is what we should do as subordinates. Yes, the old man responded softly and said, have the 10 sword cultivators been trained? Have they all taken their medicine? I've already accepted it. Those few are pretty strong and can already rush to the aid of the 100,000 mountains. Very good, a smile finally appeared on the old man's face, and he said, in this way, let them come here to maintain order, and when the conference is over, let them go to Shiwanda Mountain. Yes, shopkeeper. Zhen Wengxiu walked backwards out of the room, took out a jade talisman from his waist, and conveyed the news from the shopkeeper. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 433. Zuyun kept looking at the formation patterns underneath with the void-breaking spiritual eye technique, but after a long time, he had little effect. It is enough to show that the person setting up the formation has far greater attainments than him. Alas, the Peeper realm is indeed a higher level of existence. For someone like me, it's still too shallow. When Zuyun sighed secretly, the seats below were already full of people. At the same time, another richly dressed old man stepped onto the high platform. Below, the sounds of various conversations and pleasantries suddenly stopped. Zuyun also put away his mind and looked towards the old man. Just for a moment, the old man suddenly raised his head and looked towards Zuyun. That look seemed to hit Zuyun straight to the bottom of his heart. Zuyun was so shocked that he quickly turned his head pretending to be unintentional. What a scary look. Zuyun withdrew the void-breaking eyes technique with lingering fear in his heart. He knew that it must have been the technique that made the old man feel something. It seems that in the Peeper realm, this method is not used indiscriminately. The Lin family was destroyed at that time, perhaps because of this technique. Zuyun secretly reminded himself that the Peeper realm was completely different from the Yao realm. Although the situation at this time is very different from when he first entered the Yao realm. But after all, the overall strength of Peeper realm monks is much stronger, and there may be many techniques that I have never heard of, and so on, which are beyond my horizons. Still have to be careful. After coming back to his senses, the old man over there also spoke. Everyone, welcome to our annual pet auction in the pet pavilion. I believe you have been looking forward to it for a long time. This time, our pet pavilion has prepared many monsters, and there will always be one suitable for you. As the old man's voice sounded, the surrounding atmosphere began to become extremely subtle. Zuyun had preconceptions that all the auction items were monster beasts, so when the first red candle beast was put in a cage and brought up, he was stunned for a long time. The first demonic beast is the red candle beast that was born in the fire of the earth's veins. This demonic beast is connected to fire, so it has extremely strong fire control ability. Extracting the essence of the demonic elixir and then absorbing and refining it can allow you to practice fire magic. My Taoist friends, your fire control ability has been greatly increased. These words really opened Zuyun's eyes. He also had a red candle beast and had killed a red candle beast, but he had never known that the red candle beast's demon elixir had such an effect. He couldn't help but become interested and wanted to know more about the red candle beast. Unfortunately, the old man did not continue talking, but began to quote. This red candle beast is only one step away from the Demon King realm. The starting price is 1,000 spirit stones. As his words fell, a monk in red immediately stood up. Ha ha ha, Mr. Wu has been keeping an eye on me for a long time. I have been worrying about fire control recently, but I didn't know that Mr. Wu gave me a red candle beast. 1,000 spiritual stones, I'm out. When Elder Wu heard the news, he said with a smile, Elder Yan is joking, if no one fights for it, this red candle beast will be yours. Huh, another gloomy voice came, immediately attracting the attention of others. Zuyun also looked over. It was a monk in the alchemy stage who was shrouded in black robes. At the auction venue, the one with the highest price will win, but this is not the place for your fire dragon sect to bluff people with your reputation. We, the demon-controlling sect, are not afraid of you. It just so happens that we are short of a pure fire monster, and the red candle beast is pretty good, with 2,000 spirit stones. I didn't expect that the demon control holy sect would degenerate to the point of going to the auction venue to look for monsters. Elder Yan had a look of contempt on his face, as if he didn't take the men in black of the demon control holy sect seriously at all. However, the man also said in a relaxed manner, what about our demon control holy sect? It's not your turn for outsiders to make irresponsible remarks. If you have money, just throw it away. If you don't have money, just shut up. Humph. Elder Yan turned to look at Elder Wu and said, 3,000 spirit stones. 5,000. 6,000. 8,000. Both of them stopped talking nonsense. After just over 10 years of interest, the price soared to 20,000 yuan. This made Zuyun feel a little excited. He wished he could go to Chuzhu again and catch some red candle beasts to sell. Of course, he couldn't sell the ones from his own ranch. Although he didn't raise her, she still recognized him as her master. Zuyun was not such a person. It seems that your demon-controlling saint sect is well prepared this time. If so, then you will be the one to blame. Elder Yan suddenly showed a smile that showed success and gave up the bidding. At this time, the price has been called 25,000 spirit stones. But the man was not moved at all. Instead, he sarcastically said, my demon-controlling sect is not as poor as your fire dragon sect. Suddenly, Elder Yan's expression froze. Obviously, the other party had already seen through his poor performance and was always acting like a clown. No matter how much the price is, to the demon Yu Sheng sect, it is obviously just a string of numbers. Unconsciously, Elder Yan clenched his fists. And this scene all fell into Zuyun's eyes. It seems that the demon-controlling saint sect and the fire dragon sect are not dealing with each other. He thought secretly in his mind. Before coming to Peeper Realm, he had already thought about finding a sect to stay in, so as to have a deeper understanding of the distribution of forces and terrain in Peeper Realm. The Fire Dragon sect was the first sect he knew, and they mainly specialized in refining weapons and elixirs, which helped him improve his attainments in these two areas. The most important thing is that the Fire Dragon sect is built on the ground fire, which is the place Zuyun covets the most. But at this moment, it seems that the demon control holy sect is not bad either. Firstly, he is rich and powerful, and secondly, he also has many monsters. Not to mention the 2 demon kings in hand, even Zhao Kamang should be considered impressive. Not to mention, the other party spent a high price to bid for a red candle beast. If I bring a red candle beast, can I also join in? What makes Zuyun excited about the demon control holy sect is the magic formula for controlling demons and the method of making beast pets stronger. He promised Zhao Kamang that he would turn him back to human form. But he knows nothing about this. Except for making Zhao Kamang break through. For a while, Zuyun was a little embarrassed. After thinking for a while, Zuyun decided to join the Fire Dragon sect first. Zhao Kamang was not too anxious. Relatively speaking, alchemy would be more important. Just after he made his decision, Wu Lao on the stage announced the second demon beast to be auctioned. Zuyun was not interested at all at this time, but began to plan how to get acquainted with Elder Yan and join the sect. The next auction items were not hot or cold. Elder Yan knew that he was not as financially capable as the demon control saint sect, so he kept a low profile and seemed to be a little afraid. However, this had nothing to do with Zuyun, so he didn't care at all. After a full hour, Elder Wu suddenly raised his voice. Everyone, next is the most important item of our beast pet pavilion this time. At this point, the surroundings suddenly became quiet, and almost all the cultivators stretched their necks, as if they could see the items pushed up more clearly. Unfortunately, Elder Wu showed a meaningful smile. Everyone understands. In order to avoid misunderstandings, I will not push this item up for everyone to watch. But there is one thing that our beast pet pavilion can guarantee. You will never regret buying it. The starting price is 100,000 spirit stones. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was in an uproar. These cultivators who were trying their best to get in had long known that the last item was a demon fox, but this price far exceeded the usual auction record. Elder Wu, is this price too high? A cultivator stood up and said excitedly. Zuyun looked carefully and found that this person was also at the peak of the late Jindan period. It turned out to be fellow Daoist Hao. Old Wu bowed his hands and said politely, fellow Daoist Hao, don't worry, this price is absolutely worth it. Old Wu, although fellow Daoist Hao and I came here for this time, I stand on his side. The price is high, it should be worth it. We didn't see anything, just based on your one-sided words, even if we believe in the reputation of the Beast Pet Pavilion, we can't help but feel uneasy. Another person stood up, and Zuyun was very surprised. Also at the peak of the late Jindan period. Unexpectedly, at the end of the entire auction, these strong men never said a word. Obviously, they all came for the demon fox. That's right, Mr. Wu, please forgive me for speaking frankly. Everyone here knows what the auction item is, and some things are tacitly understood. So Mr. Wu doesn't need to hide it. You should say something about the tenfold increase in value. One after another, cultivators stood up to express their opinions, and Zuyun looked even more solemn. Ever since he was sensed by Mr. Wu, he never used the breaking void spirit eye technique again, so he looked at these cultivators carefully. Seeing this, he swept his eyes over them one by one, judging by their aura. But just when he swept over the edge of the seat below, his pupils suddenly shrank. Is this Jianyi? He looks like a guard. He took a breath, looked away, and saw Jian-san again. There were also sword cultivators dressed like them, all holding spirit swords. This beast pet pavilion is really incredible. There are more than 10 people from Wanjian Mountain, with extraordinary combat power, but they are just ordinary guards here. Just when he was extremely shocked, Mr. Wu said something even more shocking. In this case, then Mr. Wu can only reveal a little more. This auction item has an extraordinary status, it can be called a princess. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 434. When he heard the word princess, the first reaction in Zhu Yun's mind was Qiuqi. His impression of Qiuqi was not only that she was a little fox with 3 tails, but also that she was the daughter of the Fox King. At that time, I almost died twice in the 100,000 mountains, when facing the Fox King. How could I forget? At the same time, that was when he truly felt the magical effect of the second level of Golden Escape technique. After turning into a spirit body, you can understand the language of all beasts. If it was really Qiuqi, Zhu Yun subconsciously felt that he could not stand idly by. He knew very well what would happen to the Demon Fox clan if they fell into the hands of these monks. After swallowing the transformation pill, he was forcibly transformed into a human form, and then Zhu Yun didn't dare to imagine the future, or even couldn't imagine it. Involuntarily, his body suddenly froze. Unexpectedly, this scene was seen by Mr. Wu, who was standing quietly on the high platform. Zhu Yun secretly thought that it was bad, Mr. Wu's perception was so sharp. But he clearly feels that he is only in the stage of forming an elixir. Could it be that the ancestor of nascent soul has stopped breathing? The first time he looked at him, Zhu Yun used the void-breaking spiritual eye technique, but he didn't see too clearly. He just forgot to put it away. But seeing Mr. Wu looking at him at this moment, he could only bite the bullet and join in the bidding later. Otherwise, it will definitely arouse Mr. Wu's suspicion. But 100,000 spiritual stones, even if you sell yourself, it's not worth that much money, right? Is it possible to resell the Demon King? How is this possible? He was very sure that if he summoned Lao Jin or Lao Ma out of thin air, he would definitely end badly. But wait, what do you call it? He frowned, but the crowd became noisy again. 100,000 spirit stones, I want them. 110,000. My demon-controlling saint sect is very interested in this lot, and I hope you will give it some respect. 150,000 spirit stones. The man in black was still laughing at Elder Huo for reporting himself to the sect, but he didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, he would also use this trick. But Elder Yan had no time to retort, but showed a look of madness on his face and roared, 200,000 spirit stones. Hearing this voice, Zhu Yun was shocked again. Wrong. If it was just for fun, how could it be possible to produce such a high spiritual stone? Could it be that there is a hidden secret in this? It seems that it is not that simple to buy Qiuqi. After much thought, Zhu Yun decided to stay put for the time being. Mr. Wu, on the other hand, had a smile on his face. As the prices quoted by all parties got higher and higher, his smile became even bigger. But from time to time, he would still glance towards Zhu Yun. Until the price was announced, Zhu Yun didn't say anything, and was gradually forgotten by Mr. Wu. It's not that Zhu Yun doesn't scream. But he knew that he couldn't get the spirit stone and only had one chance to bid. Moreover, he had thought about what to use as the price. The price was called 2 million. Some monks with weaker backgrounds seemed to have given up. At this time, only the demon-controlling sect and the fire dragon sect were left competing. Moreover, they have gone beyond spiritual stones and started to use items to trade off the price. Mr. Wu seemed to acquiesce in this behavior, which made Zhu Yun relax a little. The 2 million spirit stones have been exhausted. The fire dragon sect, can get another 100 fire dragon pills. For some reason, Elder Yan was looking at the male cultivator in black, as if he was sure of victory. Oh my god, fire dragon pills? Still 100. One fire dragon pill, the black market costs 10,000 spiritual stones. Is this equivalent to asking for 3 million? I just saw Elder Yan touching the jade talisman around his waist and meditating. Apparently he has communicated with the top management of the fire dragon sect. Listening to the discussion, Elder Yan did not shy away and said directly to Elder Wu, "Elder Wu, Mr. Yan has applied to the sect for 100 fire dragon pills. As long as the auction item belongs to us, we will immediately send out the best flying boat to deliver it. Come. Mr. Wu always had a smile on his face, nodded, turned to the monk in black, and said, I wonder how your sect will bid. The man in black never showed his face, and Mr. Wu didn't know his identity. Apart from knowing that he is a member of the Demon Control Holy Sect, there is no other information. Elder Yan is really generous. It's hard to find the fire dragon pill, but... The man in black deliberately gave it a pass, and the other monks pricked up their ears, including Zuyun. Our Demon Control Holy Sect can produce the elixirs of 100 spiritual beasts. As soon as the words fell, the air suddenly became stagnant. In the Peeper realm, there are many monks who practice with demon pills, but demon pills are mainly based on demon power after all. Just like the first auction item, the red candle beast, the selling point introduced by Mr. Wu was just to temper the demon pill and extract one of its fire-controlling powers to absorb it. This already illustrates the limitations of the demon pill. At this time, the elixir mentioned by the man in black was very different from the demon elixir. But the only difference is that the elixirs are all filled with spiritual power. Moreover, after this kind of spiritual power is refined by the spirit beast, it is much purer than the spiritual power tempered by the monks themselves. The biggest difference between spiritual beasts and monster beasts is that spiritual beasts directly absorb spiritual power for their own use, so they are also very close to humans. But there are differences in elixirs. The spiritual elixir usually referred to among monks is the elixir equivalent to the spiritual beast in the elixir formation stage. The worst among those here are those in the early stage of pill formation. How come these 100 elixirs are not valuable? Calculated based on market price. It's worth 2 million spirit stones. This price directly crushes that of the Fire Dragon sect. I am afraid that only the demon controlling sect can be so grand. It's just that everyone is full of doubts at this time. When did the demon controlling saint sect start controlling spirit beasts? Never heard of it? Even Mr. Wu looked in disbelief and said, are you serious about this? Of course, the demon controlling saint sect, will not tell lies. As the man in black spoke, he pulled off his black robe and hood, and a sickly white face appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Use Hai-Bai. Mr. Yan also screamed in surprise. What, he is Use Hai-Bai? The acting master of the Demon Control Holy Sect. That's right, it's him. He's at the peak of the late stage of pill formation before he's 50. Zuyun couldn't help but take another look. From the words that came to his ears from below, he knew that Use Hai-Bai was a person. You need to remember him so that you won't provoke him in the future because of your ignorance. It's not that I'm afraid of not being able to beat him, but I'm afraid of causing trouble. Who told him to be okay? He wore a black robe to cover himself. Huh, Mr. Yan snorted coldly, I didn't expect you to come here in person, Use Hai-Bai. I wonder if you got the news in advance. There was a bit of sourness in his tone. Obviously, Mr. Yan knew that he couldn't compete, so he was unwilling to do so. Wherever there are demons, there is our demon-controlling sect. Elder Yan is also the #1 figure in the Fire Dragon section. How could he not know this? Use Hai-Bai said lightly, but everyone could hear the ridicule in it. It is obviously saying that even if Elder Yan is not weak in status, he is just an errand boy. These words left Elder Yan speechless, and Use Hai-Bai turned his head at the right time, looked at Elder Wu and said easily, Elder Wu, the price of 4 million spirit stones must be the highest price at this time, right? Mr. Wu nodded first, and then said, Sect Master Yu, this price is indeed the highest. Use Hai-Bai stretched out his hand and put on the hood again, covering his entire face, and said, then why haven't you announced that this lot belongs to our Demon Control Holy Sect? Is it possible that we have to wait for the delivery of 400 elixirs? This is not in line with the rules of the Beast Pet Pavilion. No, no. Elder Wu pretended to be mysterious and said, Wu naturally believes in the credibility of the demon Yu Sheng sect, but at this time, there are still people who have not bid. After saying that, he looked straight at Zhu Yun. Zhu Yun's expression changed. Unexpectedly, Mr. Wu had not forgotten him at all. At the same time, the rest of the people also looked at Zhu Yun. Seeing such a strange and young face, they all guessed Zhu Yun's identity. Many of them came on behalf of the nascent soul ancestor behind them. This made them feel that the same was true for Zhu Yun. Elder Yan has lost the qualification to compete for the auction, and instead only looks curious. Yu's Haibai stared at Zhu Yun with two real eyes, as if he wanted to threaten Zhu Yun with his eyes. Unfortunately, Zhu Yun had already made plans. No matter what, Qiu Qi must be rescued. Just as he was preparing to make an offer, suddenly there was a sound of surprise. Reporting to Mr. Wu, this guy is just a casual cultivator from Yezhou. He can't have a net worth of millions of spiritual stones. This sudden sound quickly attracted everyone's attention. Mr. Wu's face darkened, and he slapped him away from the air. Quack! With a crisp sound, Zhu Yun saw the sword being thrown away and hit a transparent formation wall. Several rays of light lit up like ripples on the water. This was a pattern that Zhu Yun had not been able to see before using the void-breaking spiritual eye technique. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 435. Jianyi, who was a top figure in Wanjian Mountain and even in the entire Yezhou, was not only a low-status guard, but was also slapped away by Mr. Wu like a dead dog. What's even more terrifying is that Mr. Wu doesn't even have any spiritual power fluctuations. This is what scares Zhu Yun the most. Originally, Mr. Wu could sense that his void-breaking spiritual eye technique had made Zhu Yun secretly pay attention to it. At this time, Zhu Yun had to be extremely energetic. After Mr. Wu finished teaching Jianyi, he looked at Zhu Yun from afar as if nothing had happened, and said with a smile, "This guest, my subordinate, is not sensible, please forgive me." The words were extremely polite. However, before Zhu Yun could speak, another figure flew to the high platform and knelt down in front of Mr. Wu. "Old Wu, brother one is just telling the truth, please give me some advice from Mr. Wu. It's Jianzan. He is also a peak person in the late stage of pill formation. Kneeling at this moment is extremely humbling. You people are really desperate. Get out of here." Mr. Wu's smile froze, and he slapped out the same palm, directly hitting Jiansan with Jianyi. Zhu Yun's mind moved, and he quickly looked in the direction where Jiansan was flying with his void-breaking eyes technique. Likewise, the array pattern lights up again. But this time, Zhu Yun gained something. When the sword collided, Zhu Yun did not expect it. But what he didn't expect was that Jiansan would come out to die, which actually gave him an advantage. Mr. Wu snorted coldly and glanced around. An invisible pressure enveloped the remaining sword cultivators in Wanjian Mountain. If you think Wu is usually easy to talk to, you can come up and try Wu's methods again to see if he can kill people. Murderous aura overflowed, the surroundings were extremely cold, and no one dared to speak. Even Yu's Haibai and Yan Lao regarded themselves as spectators. Then, Mr. Wu turned his attention to Zhu Yun again, changed his face and showed a warm smile. "This fellow Taoist made you laugh. Please make an offer." Wu is easy to talk to, but he doesn't like to joke. Zhu Yun sneered in his heart. Just these 2 times, he had already seen that there was a knife hidden in this smile. If I hadn't quoted the price, I'm afraid that slap would definitely fall on me. Fortunately, he had already made preparations. Zhu Yun held up the window edge with one hand, turned over, and jumped straight out of the room, landing in the venue below. Just like that, under the gaze of all the onlookers, Zhu Yun stepped forward. At this time, the more he pretends to be relaxed. Only in this way can there be a chance of survival later. For a moment, Zuyun became the focus of the audience. To be honest, he didn't like this feeling. Being too pushy is not a wise choice in this unfamiliar environment. But there were formations in the small room, and Zuyun didn't like being watched. Mr. Wu watched Zuyun walking with interest. Of course he chose to believe what Jianyi and Jianzan said. But I was even more interested in Zuyun's fearless performance. Not to mention, he came from the second floor. As one of the people in charge of the pet pavilion, Mr. Wu naturally knew who prepared the second floor. Fellow Taoist must also want to use the price of the object as collateral, right? As the person in charge of this auction, Mr. Wu can only be a villain before being a gentleman. If the things Taoist brings out are not valuable, Wu must give them to other guests. An explanation. He said this, but Mr. Wu only glanced at Yu's Haibai, and everyone knew what he meant. Sure enough, Yu's Haibai understood immediately and moved towards this place. Everyone knew that although Zuyun was forcibly pulled out by Mr. Wu, since Zuyun came down, it means that he really wanted to make a bid. This is tantamount to him competing with Yu's Haibai for the last lot. Zuyun naturally understood what Mr. Wu meant. Although he had never participated in an auction, he had often heard Sun Suanhua talk about it. In the past, when Yaezhu was not in chaos and the 7-star gate was not destroyed, they would often hold events to sell some fine and rare elixirs. Not to mention other sect forces. At this time, Yu's Haibai was still shrouded in a black robe. Without the use of the Po Su Ling Ai technique, Zuyun naturally couldn't see his expression clearly, let alone guess how Yu's Haibai would treat him. But always thinking of the worst in everything, Zuyun would not regard Yu's Haibai as someone he could befriend at this moment. On the contrary, after Yu's Haibai came closer, Elder Yan also moved. Strong footsteps came from behind, which surprised Zuyun. Ha ha ha, Mr. Wu, Yan is very itchy and wants to see what this little fellow Taoist can take out and replace. Anyway, he couldn't bid again, so it was reasonable. After all, he only came on behalf of the Fire Dragon sect, not himself. Elder Yan and Yu's Haibai stood on both sides of Zuyun almost at the same time, and Elder Yan even looked at Yu's Haibai provocatively. Snort. Yu's Haibai snorted coldly and said to Mr. Wu, please. You're welcome, Mr. Wu still said politely. I have to say that on the surface, he did a very good job, and no one could find any fault. Then, he looked at Zuyun again and said, fellow Daoist Chen, please. Zuyun smiled slightly, stretched out his right hand, and a black shadow flashed out of thin air and appeared in his palm. This is. Feeling the black sword without any spiritual power fluctuation, Mr. Wu suddenly frowned. Yu's Haibai sneered and said, boy, are you trying to trick me into being ignorant? You have the nerve to take out this mortal iron sword. Do you think your life is too long to fool my sect leader and Mr. Wu? Yu's Haibai is the acting sect leader of the Demon Control Holy Section at this time. He considers himself the sect leader, which shows how angry he is. He even moved his hands arbitrarily, as if he might strike out with a palm at any time and smash Zuyun into powder. But this is the territory of the pet pavilion, and Yu's Haibai can only restrain it forcefully. Zuyun sneered and said, sect leader Yu is ignorant, I wonder if Mr. Wu can deny it. From Elder Wu's reaction, he caught a hint of surprise, which showed that Elder Wu could see the value of this sword. Also, although I don't know what material this black sword is made of, it was once the object of the immortal emperor, how can it be an ordinary thing? If you can't feel the spiritual power on it, you can only say that Yu's Haibai's vision is not good. If Zuyun knew that Yu's Haibai was still young, he wouldn't be surprised. That's what I said, little friend. Mr. Wu nodded, and the title of his childhood Taoist friend became little friend. The meaning is self-evident. After answering, he turned to look at Yu's Haibai and said, Master Yu, the last piece of white goods today belongs to this little friend Chen. Mr. Wu, what does this mean? Yu's Haibai's whole body surged with energy, his black robe and hat instantly fell off, and his fair face turned red. Can sect leader you not trust the reputation of our beast pet pavilion? Mr. Wu narrowed his eyes and asked. Ha ha ha, Mr. Yan suddenly laughed out loud at this time, and he stood in front of Zhu Yun and said, Mr. Wu, I want to bid on this lot again. Zhu Yun suddenly frowned. Elder Yan had obviously given up fighting with Yu's Haibai just now. Why did he suddenly go back on his word now? But then, Mr. Wu's words made Zhu Yun suddenly realize. Elder Yan also likes this sword. Elder Yan chuckled and said, I don't understand swords, and our Yanlong sect is not the place to use swords. It's just that the black sword's iron from the sky is exactly what our fire dragon sect needs. After saying that, he turned to look at Zhu Yun and said, Little friend, if you want this last lot, Yan can help you get it out first. All you need is to transfer the black sword to Yan. Oh. Zhu Yun did not agree directly, but pretended not to understand and said, Elder Yan, I can directly exchange the lots with Elder Wu, why do you need to do this? Ha ha ha. Elder Yan laughed and said, Little friend, if you exchange the sword with Elder Wu, you can only exchange it for one lot. If you exchange it with me, the Fire Dragon sect, you can exchange it for an extra 100 Fire Dragon pills. What do you think? As soon as these words came out, the whole place was in an uproar. Even if they still don't recognize the sword, they still know its value. This is equivalent to directly adding millions of spirit stones to the price. Is this ordinary black sword really so valuable? Even if this sword is made entirely of iron from the outer world, I'm afraid it won't be worth so many spiritual stones. It seems that the only ones who recognize this sword are Elder Wu and Elder Yan. Everyone's eyes were on Elder Yan and Elder Wu. As for Zhu Yun, a mere ordinary boy in the early stage of pill formation, he can't take this sword away. Even if he doesn't change, I'm afraid he won't be able to leave Fangxi safely. As long as Zhu Yun dares to leave with his sword, then he will be walking with millions of spiritual stones. Elder Yan and Elder Wu looked at Zhu Yun at the same time, waiting for Zhu Yun to make a decision. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 436. Zhu Yun never expected to encounter such a situation. However, it seems that the Chaos Sword can bring him greater benefits. He had never heard of Fire Dragon Pill. But a pill worth tens of thousands of pills is obviously extraordinary. Moreover, he plans to go to the Fire Dragon section. As long as he hands over the Chaos Sword to Elder Yan, he can still make friends with him. It is true that from this auction, Mr. Wu is very powerful, but he can see that whether he is facing the Demon Control Holy Sect, the Fire Dragon Sect, or other ordinary monks, he has given him enough face. In this way, the Beast Pet Pavilion is just a power-seeking wealth. Then choosing to befriend Elder Yan was exactly in line with his expectations, and he could also walk out of the Pet Pavilion safely. Moreover, Qiu Qi can be rescued. Is this necessary first? Zhu Yun smiled slightly, pinched a spell in his hand, and the Chaos Sword flew into Elder Yan's hand. Elder Yan was stunned for a moment. He could confirm that Zhu Yun would hand over the Chaos Sword to him, but what he didn't expect was that Zhu Yun would be so casual. As a result, he developed a good impression of Zhu Yun too. Ha ha ha, since Xiao Chen believes in Yan so much, then Yan will certainly live up to your expectations. After that, he stood in front of Zhu Yun with his sword in hand, standing between him and Yu's Haibai. He even raised his eyebrows, meaning I'm covering this kid. The flush on Yu's Haibai's face had receded, and he stared at Elder Yan coldly, without giving in at all. But Elder Yan did not act out of anger and compete with Yu's Haibai. Instead, he took out the jade talisman from his waist. He did not shy away from others and said directly, 100 fire dragon pills, send them immediately. Then, he nodded to Mr. Wu and said, Mr. Wu, I guess no one will increase the price anymore, right? Mr. Wu was non-committal. The biggest competitor at the moment was Yu Kyubai. If Yu Kyubai does not increase the price, then the last lot will belong to Zhu Yun. Sect Master Yu, if you have anything good, you can try to report it. If Wu is not talented, you can also help estimate the price. Yu Kyubai felt that he was greatly insulted by these words, snorted and walked away. Valuation. How to estimate? You didn't even tell me the price of this sword, why should I estimate it for you? Of course, he didn't think Mr. Wu was making things difficult for him. But after looking at the appearance, he felt that the price of the sword was far beyond his affordability. He really needs a demon fox, and if this demon fox is the queen of the Fox King, its bloodline will be more useful to him. Unfortunately, the price is too high and I can't afford it. It seems that the last lot belongs to Chen Xiao. Elder Yan congratulated Zhu Yun. Slow. At this time, Mr. Wu interrupted him with a smile and said, Elder Yan, sect leader Yu's estimate is 4 million spirit stones, but the price you want to get the auction item is at least above this, right? That's natural, Elder Yan patted his chest and said, 100 fire dragon pills are just a meeting gift given to Chen Xiao by Yan on behalf of the fire dragon sect. These words once again shocked the monks. $1 million meeting gift? This gesture is too big. Asking a casual cultivator from the Yuanying ancestor to join the sect as a guest elder is only this price. For a time, everyone became interested in Zhu Yun, and several spiritual senses continued to sweep over Zhu Yun's body. Snort. At this time, Mr. Wu snorted coldly, and these spiritual consciousnesses immediately dissipated without a trace. I hope you won't break the rules of the pet pavilion. The words were full of coldness, and the surroundings were as silent as cicadas. Zhu Yun once again had a new understanding of Mr. Wu. It seemed that he was not only outstanding in strength, but also quite prestigious. Even if he is not the ancestor of nascent soul, he should still be treated as the ancestor of nascent soul at this time. It seems that Chen Xiao met an important guest this time when he came to Peeper Realm. Mr. Wu changed his face faster than turning the pages of a book, and said to Zhu Yun with a smile again. Zhu Yun already knew that Elder Yan would be on his side, but in fact he didn't know what he was attracted to, and he couldn't answer the question. He just nodded with a smile. Mr. Wu, the auction is over, right? I forgot to mention that Yan will pay for the 5 million spirit stones out of his own pocket. After saying that, he stretched out his left hand, and Zhu Yun discovered that there was a fiery red ring on his thumb. I said so. Yan Lao laughed, stretched out his hand, and touched the ring on his middle finger with the fiery red finger. There was a flash of spiritual power, and the two of them took back their hands. 5 million, that's right. Mr. Wu nodded with satisfaction, then turned to face the crowd and said, as long as you all know it well, the auction is over and you can leave. Those who have won the auction will be personally sold by the deacon of this pavilion later. Send the pet. This was an order to expel guests. Even though these people were full of curiosity, they did not dare to stay any longer. It's just a pity that this time, not only did I not take a picture of the demon fox, but I couldn't even take a look at how the princess of the demon fox is different. Even Yu's Haibai left the venue voluntarily. In an instant, only Elder Zhu Yunyan and Elder Wu were left here, as well as the Wanjian mountain guards surrounding them. Elder Huo, if Wu remembers correctly, you were helping the sect to take pictures of this demon fox, right? When no one is around, Mr. Wu no longer refers to the auction item as the demon fox. Indeed, our sect leader needs demon fox blood recently, but we just encountered those sick people from the demon control holy sect. Elder Yan made no secret of his disgust for Yu's highbye. What Wu doesn't understand is why you didn't help the sect take a picture of this fox demon, but instead paid for it privately for this little friend. Could it be that this sword? Having said that, Mr. Wu looked at Zuyun. Even Zuyun was confused. He knew that the Chaos Sword was a priceless treasure. But they didn't recognize it as an immortal sword and paid such a high price, which really made him confused. Ha ha ha, I'm afraid Mr. Wu has forgotten, what is Yan's best skill. Listening to Elder Yan's hearty laughter, Elder Wu was startled for a moment, and then suddenly realized, so what you said about the iron in the sky was for others to hear. But in fact, you are interested in the refining method of this sword? Suddenly, Zuyun also understood for a while. I see. The doubts in my heart dissipated. When he got the Chaos Sword, he didn't pay attention to how the Chaos Sword was refined. And after he knew it was a fairy sword, he even ignored this problem. With my own skill in refining weapons, I can only refining medium-grade magical weapons at most. How can I understand the method of refining fairy swords? How is this possible? Unexpectedly, this Elder Yan, with his sharp eyes, came directly towards the method of refining the Chaos Sword. No wonder he would produce these 5 million spirit stones himself. Big deal. But just now, did the spirit stones and the others transfer directly through the ring? This is much more convenient than a storage bag. Zuyun couldn't help but rub the Sumuru ring on his finger. It seemed that there were still too many things that he needed to know. Old Wu still has such a sharp eye? Indeed, when I scanned this sword for the first time, I found that there were no traces of quenching, and it is very old. It cannot be said that it has existed for at least 5,000 years. Elder Wu suddenly showed an envious look. Elder Yan, it seems that you are good at refining weapons, and you do have extraordinary vision. If it were Wu, he could only see that this sword is extraordinary. It seems that I value this sword at 10 million, it's still low, and you got a bargain. Mr. Wu, don't belittle yourself. Who doesn't know that your puppet control holy section? When he heard the last 4 words, Zuyun's heart suddenly trembled. It turned out to be you puppet holy sect? But as soon as he finished speaking, a pill-forming monk came over with a gorgeous bag. Elder Wu looked at Zuyun, and then said to Elder Yan, Elder Yan, you puppet holy sect has been destroyed, don't mention it in the future. After saying that, he turned around and walked towards the Danja period, took the bag, and finally gave it to Zuyun. Little friend Chen, the demon fox princess is in this beast-controlling bag. You only need to erase the spiritual consciousness on it and you can recognize her master again. In addition, our beast pet pavilion will also give you a good transformation pill. No side effects. After that, he took out an exquisite porcelain bottle from his arms. Zuyun took it, suppressed the excitement in his heart, printed his spiritual consciousness on the beast control bag, and put it into his sleeve. He couldn't wait to see if Qiu Qi was among them, but he also knew that this was not appropriate at this time. In this case, Yan will also leave. Mr. Wu, see you later. Elder Yan winked at Zuyun and said goodbye, and Zuyun quickly did so. He wants the fire dragon pill, and he wants to go to the fire dragon sect even more. As for Qiu Qi, if you have the chance, call her out and ask her before sending him back to Shiwanda Mountain. Following Elder Yan out of the venue, Zuyun did not encounter any obstruction. After leaving, Elder Yan said with a smile, little friend Chen, if you stay here for 1 day, the fire dragon pill will be delivered to you. Then you can take the flying boat with me to the fire dragon sect. Zuyun smiled and nodded. At first he thought Elder Yan was a hot-tempered person, but he didn't think so. He was very thoughtful. The two walked side by side and entered an inn in Fangxi. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 437. And in the venue. Mr. Wu walked up to Xianxia with a gloomy expression. "Wu, old Wu. The sword looked extremely ugly. Humph, if you hadn't been of some use to me, you would have died today." Mr. Wu's murderous intention emerged, instantly covering Xianxia and Xian3, but it quickly dispersed. He was right, these two people were quite powerful and very useful. Nowadays, let alone their beast pet pavilion, the entire Peeper realm is short of people. Otherwise, Elder Yan would not pay the price of 100 fire dragon pills. Please wish Yun to join the sect. In fact, he saw it very clearly. A person who can take out a mysterious spiritual sword in the early stage of pill formation must have more secrets to dig out. However, there were too many people just now, and he didn't want to fall out with the Fire Dragon sect for the time being, so he pretended to know nothing and even chose to teach Xianxia and Jian-san a lesson. "Thank you, Mr. Wu, for not killing me." The blood from the corner of Jianyi's mouth flowed onto his beard, making him look even more embarrassed. Mr. Wu took out 2 pills from his arms and threw them over, saying, "Treat your wounds first, come to me later, and tell me everything you know about that kid. Don't hide anything." "Thank you, Mr. Wu, for the elixir." Jianyi and Jianzan bowed together. Snort. Mr. Wu turned and left, and the venue immediately became extremely quiet. Everyone in Wanjian Mountain looked at each other, but no one dared to speak out. The next day, Jianyi recovered from his injuries. Elder Wu's elixir was so effective that Jianyi couldn't help but be shocked. It's not like he's never been to Peeper Realm. But before, I was a little in awe of the Peeper Realm, and I was cautious when I came, so I can't say I have seen the world of the Peeper Realm. At this time, he found Mr. Wu tremblingly. After a night of deliberation, in order to survive, he chose to tell the story of the Black Sword. "What did you say?" Mr. Wu suddenly stood up, his expression that had been indifferent finally turned to shock. "Mr. Wu, this villain is the great elder of Wanjian Mountain. How could he not know the origin of that sword? Moreover, the villain and all the brothers have seen it with their own eyes. That sword was originally the gate of our Wanjian Mountain. And this sword is the magical weapon of the ancestors, only the villain and Jian-san know it. Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Mr. Wu was furious and slapped him again. The sword's breath was stagnant, and the palm force seemed to completely lock him. If it hit him, he would definitely die. The terrifying power made him forget to dodge. But he never thought that when his palm reached his face, he suddenly stopped. All the breath disappeared. "No wonder you. There were so many people present yesterday. If you said it, it would not only cause an uproar in Peeper Realm, but also our beast pet pavilion would be targeted." Mr. Wu murmured a few times, and then said, "You guys, please don't tell me about this. Tell me such secrets, and you will be considered a meritorious service. There are some soul-warming elixirs here. Take them, one for each of you. Take the bottle." Elder Wu changed his face again, and when he took the elixir, his previous anger was completely gone. Jianyi breathed a sigh of relief. He had the elixir from last night, and now he was slightly happy to get another bottle of elixir. If I break through the nascent soul stage, I can escape from Elder Wu's control. Now I can only endure the humiliation and bear the burden and focus on survival. Jianyi didn't dare to show anything on his face, so he accepted it happily, thanked Mr. Wu again, and then exited the room. "Brother Yi, what do you say?" Outside the house, Jian-san hurriedly came to greet him. Although both of them knew the origin of Black Sword, relatively speaking, Jianyi knew Zuyun better. That's why he went in alone. When Jianyi left the house, he stuffed all the elixirs into his storage bag. Jian-san didn't see it, and he didn't even know that Jianyi had swallowed all the elixirs for himself. "I didn't say much, just let us stay in peace." Jianyi was vague. In fact, he could have told about things other than the pills. It was just that he had a ghost in his heart that made him do this. It's a pity that Jian-san didn't know about it. After hearing that nothing happened, he felt relieved. The venue has been closed, and they do not need to continue to be on duty. Instead, they all stay in a room on the second floor, waiting to be assigned tasks. After General Wu drove Jian-san away, he called Zhen Wengziu. Mr. Wu, that boy. During the auction yesterday, he had been watching on the second floor and saw what kind of movement Zuyun caused after taking out the black sword. That sword is very extraordinary. It just so happens that the sect leader lacks a good sword. If we get it and give it to him, it will be a great achievement. Mr. Wu lowered his voice and said. What about us? Zhen Wengziu immediately cheered up. The Beast Pet Pavilion is doing serious business on the surface, so this kind of robbery can only be carried out in private. Let's take a look first. From what I can see, since Old Man Yan is willing to give that boy 100 Fire Dragon pills, he will naturally take him back to the Fire Dragon sect. We only need to ambush him halfway. Mr. Wu pondered for a moment and said, Wengziu, go and arrange 300 puppets to set up an ambush in Jijian Mountain. 300? Mr. Wu, after all our hard work, we only have 500 puppets. Now we have 300. Could it be? Humph, I think 300 is too little. You and I have sensitive identities, and we can't show up. Otherwise, do you think I can give it up? If the sword is really as mysterious as a sword, we can refine more if we get rewards from the sect master. The puppet control holy pill to get more puppets. Mr. Wu, I will make arrangements now. Zhen Wengziu hurried out, leaving Mr. Wu sitting in his taishi chair for a while in a daze. He always felt that things were not that simple. If you want to seize the black sword, you may have to kill someone this time. Not only do you have to kill Elder Yan, but you won't be able to leave any evidence. Otherwise, the pet pavilion cannot protect them. At this time, in Fangxi Inn. Little friend Chen, how was your night? Elder Yan knocked on Zhu Yun's door and said with a smile. Thank you very much, Elder Yan, for your hospitality, but have you delivered the Fire Dragon pill? It's not that Zhu Yun is greedy. But at this time, if he deliberately revealed his weakness, it would make Elder Yan feel that he could take advantage of it, which would make him feel more at ease. Ha ha ha, the Fire Dragon pill is extremely precious. Last night I informed the deacon who delivered it to stop 300 miles away. Hey, why? Zhu Yun was a little confused. Little friend Chen, you were not in the limelight yesterday, but the things you and I got, whether it was the iron sword that died that day or the demon fox, were coveted by countless people. I'm afraid many people have already set their sights on us. Hearing this, Zhu Yun suddenly realized, and he still had doubts, so he asked, then why didn't you and I just leave last night and meet again 300 miles away? Elder Yan smiled and said, I used the jade slip to inform the inner sect, and everyone heard it. So what do you think their first plan will be after they become greedy? Zhu Yun pondered and said, to be honest, I paid a lot of attention around last night and didn't find anyone following me. I thought the city was extremely safe. Now that I heard Elder Yan's instructions, I understand. They are staring at where's the Fire Dragon sect's flying boat. Ha ha ha, Elder Yan gave a thumbs up and said with a smile, yes, Chen Xiao is not old, and he has quite a lot of experience. Yes, Yan naturally predicted their thoughts. Once they were not following them, secondly we are completely paying attention to Fia's Hu. If you and I leave in disguise, who can find it? But what? We still have to worry about Yu's Haibai of the demon control holy sect. Zhu Yun didn't understand Yu's Haibai. Yes, Yu's Haibai has extraordinary strength. I haven't had much dealings with him. But he is also the acting sect master after all. I'm afraid he must have monsters that can be tracked. If he is unwilling to have evil thoughts, follow him all the way. There will definitely be a fierce battle when we get to Fiashu. Speaking of this, Elder Yan's expression couldn't help but become slightly solemn. Zuyun said seriously, "So, how does Elder Yan compare in strength with Yu's Haibai?" "It's hard to say," Elder Yan shook his head and said, "although we are both at the peak of the late stage of pill formation, our cultivation methods are completely different. Maybe I am stronger, maybe he is stronger. Yan is confident that he can walk away safely, so I'm worried. It's you, Chen Xiao. If Yu's Haibai comes to attack you, I'm afraid this matter won't be that simple. You know, monks in the Peeper realm cherish their reputation, and these murders and treasures usually end up being silenced." Zuyun understood, but he didn't expect Elder Yan to be worried about him. "Elder Yan, don't worry. This kid dares to come here in the early stage of forming the pill, so he naturally has the ability to save his life." Elder Yan did not relax his expression, but said, "Little friend Chen, don't let down your guard. When encountering any changes, just stick close to Yan. You know, you are Yan who spent 100 fire dragon pills from the section." Seeing his solemn tone, Zuyun had no choice but to nod in agreement. After that, the two of them climbed directly out of the window. As for the spirit stone that was kept in the inn, they didn't even think about taking it back. "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 438. Follow me. Elder Yan shouted low and took advantage of the cover of some shop eaves in Fangxi to run towards the interior of Fangxi. Zuyun quickly followed up with the secret of immortality, but he did not use his spiritual power. From time to time, you can still see some monks, sitting somewhere as if they have nothing to do, but in fact they are looking at the sky. I think they were waiting for the fire dragon sect's flying boat to arrive. They also didn't expect that Elder Yan would do the opposite, not only stopping the flying boat 300 miles away, but also taking Zuyun deeper. But soon, Zuyun would no longer see such a person. Elder Yan also stopped. "Little friend Chen, there shouldn't be anyone watching here. If you keep walking like this, you will attract people's attention. Come with me." Zuyun nodded and followed Elder Yan towards a shop. "Is this a magic elixir seller?" Before entering the door, Zuyun smelled the aroma of medicine. "Yes, this is a store that belongs to my fire dragon sect, but outsiders don't know it. Does Mr. Chen have the elixir he needs?" Entering the store, Elder Yan said to Zuyun with a smile. Zuyun was a little moved. He had learned the Ice Dragon Scroll talisman from the fragments of the Heavenly Talisman before and had drawn a lot of it, but it had never been filled with spirit. The reason is that he has not yet figured out how to use the power of chaos to create ice spiritual power. Later, he got the recipe for ice spirit pill in the alchemy room. This pill was useful, but the key point was that he lacked the main ingredient, ice spirit grass. Now that we are in the elixir shop, why not just ask? "Elder Yan, I just want some ice spirit grass. I wonder if there is any in this store." "Ice spirit grass." Elder Yan showed a look of surprise on his face and said, "Little friend Chen is the ice spirit root." Zuyun quickly shook his head and said, No, I'm just interested in this magical medicine." Before entering the Fire Dragon sect, Zuyun still had reservations. "I don't know if there is ice spirit grass. Let me ask for you. This elixir only grows in extremely cold places. If there is one in Peeper Realm, it can only be found at Jibing Lake. Extreme Ice Lake." Zuyun secretly remembered the name of this place in his heart. If he never learns to convert ice spiritual power, he will have to go there to find ice spiritual grass. Elder Yan asked Zuyun to wait where he was, while he found the shopkeeper. He didn't know what he said, but he saw the shopkeeper frowning. After more than half a cup of tea, The shopkeeper touched his ring with Elder Yan's finger in a depressed mood. Elder Yan returned to Zuyun with a smile and said, "Little friend Chen, I have a 50-year-old plant, do you want it?" Zuyun felt happy, nodded repeatedly, tried to stretch out his hand, and said, "Elder Yan, what is the price?" "Ha ha ha, you're welcome. On behalf of the Fire Dragon sect, Yan gave you a meeting gift. Yan has never given it to you before. It's not worth a lot of spiritual stones, so Yan just gave it to you. I hope you don't dislike it, little friend Chen." After saying that, Elder Yan touched his ring to Zuyun's ring. He felt a mysterious spiritual power coming from his hand, and Zuyun immediately discovered that there was a black wooden box in the ring. There were formation patterns drawn on the wooden box, and Zuyun recognized that some of them should have the function of preserving freshness, so that the ice spirit grass would not wither and lose its medicinal effect due to the collapse of its spiritual power. "Thank you, Elder Yan." Zuyun cupped his hands and thanked him. He really wanted to take out the ice spirit grass and take a look at it, but he also knew that it was not the right time. Elder Yan smiled and said, "You're welcome, but the ice spirit grass has limited effects and cannot be used to refine elixirs, so there are not many people picking it. Wait here for a moment. A car will come out from here and the shopkeeper will arrange it." "Okay." Zuyun nodded and found a place to sit down with Elder Yan. After a while, the shopkeeper came over with a minor cultivator in the foundation building stage and said respectfully, "Elder Yan, the carriage has been arranged. You and this fellow Taoist can leave." Elder Yan nodded and took Zuyun to follow the shopkeeper to the backyard. "Young Chen, I feel aggrieved." "It doesn't matter." The two of them got into the carriage, and there were many ordinary boxes placed outside. Zuyun was a little strange and said, "Shopkeeper, aren't you afraid of being robbed by pretending like this?" Hearing this, the shopkeeper showed a strange expression on his face. Elder Yan explained with a smile, "Chen Xiao just came from Yao realm and doesn't know much about Peepa realm." "Shopkeeper, don't think too much. Young ones naturally know." After getting ready, the foundation building cultivator got on the carriage and drove slowly outside. In the car, Elder Yan said relaxedly, "Young Chen, you didn't notice this carriage, but it is actually engraved with some formations. Firstly, spiritual consciousness cannot be swept in, and secondly, it has good protection. If you don't believe it, you should investigate it carefully." "I see." Most of Zuyun's doubts were cleared up, but he didn't have the nerve to ask about the other half. If it's a delivery, why not send a Jidankai to put everything into the Sumuru ring? As everyone knows, the Sumuru ring is also a precious thing in the Peepa realm. There would be no ordinary pill formation period at all. Like Elder Yan, it would be impossible to have one unless he had to go out frequently to do errands. Behind him is the Fire Dragon sect, and his own strength has reached the peak of the late stage of pill formation, so it is naturally impossible for ordinary people to rob him. As for why storage bags are not used, it is convenient, but storage bags are not convenient. Moreover, this kind of carriage can also maximize the safety of delivering minor repairs. Unless the Yuanying ancestor comes, it is impossible to destroy the carriage of this carriage. Zuyun was extremely surprised after his spiritual sense swept through it. Although he has not been in Peepa realm for a long time, he found that the overall formation level of Peepa realm is really high. Not only did he use his spiritual sense, but he also used the Breaking Void Spirit Eye technique to see all the formation patterns in the carriage. He could not understand the meaning of more than half of these formation patterns. Seeing Zuyun's expression, Elder Yan smiled and said, "Don't be surprised, Chen Xiao, these carriages are basically made by the Immortal Array section. Their formation is the best in Peepa realm." "So that's it? The Immortal Array sect, this name sounds extraordinary." Zuyun praised and also remembered the sect in his heart. "I wonder if I have the opportunity to go there to learn some formations." He couldn't fully understand the formations in such ordinary carriages. Not to mention some formations that they don't show to the public. For a moment, Zuyun felt itchy in his heart. Friend Chen, each carriage has a different formation. Of course, when you buy it, you will be given a manual with the carriage. This is because we are afraid that someone will study all carriages after studying one carriage thoroughly. Elder Yan explained it again at the right time, which shocked Zuyun again. So, this combination formation also has a myriad of changes. What he could see just now were only ordinary prohibitions such as protective formations, soundproof formations, and screen recognition formations. Zuyun believed that he could do it, but he could never be so exquisite. Think about it again, there are countless carriages like Peeper Realm, how many combinations are there? It's terrifying to think about it. This time, I came here, and none of the forces I saw were simple. Zuyun took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Sitting in the swaying carriage, I don't know how long it has been. The two talked about it, and Zuyun was always asking about Peeper Realm. Elder Yan didn't care at all and answered every question. This was also due to Zuyun's understanding, and he would never ask about any sex affairs. Their spiritual consciousness could not flow out of the carriage, nor could it flow in from outside the carriage. Along the way, they almost deceived all the cultivators who were secretly following them. But only one person was missed. Use Haibai. I was almost fooled by old Ghost Yan. At the entrance of the market, Use Haibai was dressed in a black robe, and no one could see the expression on his face. But he just stood there, with an aura of keep away from strangers, plus he was at the peak of the late Jindan stage, almost no one dared to provoke him. Squeak. At this time, a few slight calls came from Use Haibai's sleeves. Use Haibai patted twice lightly, and a fist-sized impact was quickly given back. I don't believe it, you take this carriage back to the Fire Dragon sect. He saw very clearly that the young cultivator driving the car was only in the foundation building stage, and he didn't need to use any kind of hidden body skills, just facing the back of the car to fly. After seeing the carriage go a little further, Use Haibai flew into the air and hung far behind the carriage. The reason why he didn't get too close was that he was afraid that he would tell Elder Yan in the carriage. In addition, if he took action here, it would definitely attract the attention of other cultivators. If he really wanted to take action, he would naturally go to a place where few people go. After another moment, two people appeared at the entrance of the market. It was Old Wu. Looking at Use Haibai's figure turning into a black dot, he took out the jade slip thoughtfully. Wengziu, Use Haibai went to the northwest, you should pay attention, he may also want to take action against old Ghost Yan. Buzz. The jade slip quickly vibrated. Old Wu put away the jade slip and turned back to his pet pavilion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 439. The northwest of Fang City is mostly hilly and less plain. However, there are roads in the mountains. They look very old and were obviously made by ordinary young monks. The foundation building repairman who was driving the carriage had a leisurely look on his face, and he didn't even have to swing his riding whip. Just because the horse pulling the cart is a spirited horse. However, the spirituality is not high, otherwise it would not be an animal pulling a cart. The advantage of using this kind of spirit horse is that the driver does not need to be too distracted, has full endurance, and is not afraid of ordinary beasts such as jackals, tigers, and leopards. After traveling for about 100 miles, the sky was getting dark, and the vegetation in the mountains and forests was lush. Although the spiritual power was strong, it became dark after the sun set in the west. Xiaoxiu stopped the carriage and knocked on the shaft 3 times. This is a secret code. After a moment, the wooden door of the carriage opened, and Elder Yan poked his head out. "What's the matter?" "Senior," Xiaoxiu said respectfully, "it's already dark. I would like to ask if I can rest nearby for the night. You are familiar with this mountain road, so you can arrange it?" Elder Yan said calmly. "Yes, Senior, there is a small valley 3 miles ahead. The night wind does not blow and the monsters do not come. The young one is driving the car and often rests there. Then rest in 3 miles. "Yes, Senior." Elder Yan retracted his head into the carriage, and Zuyun said strangely, "Elder Yan, according to the speed of this carriage, if it is traveling at night, it should be 300 miles before dawn, right?" Elder Yan smiled and said, "Little friend, it's best not to travel at night in the Peeper realm. If it's just you and me, it's okay, but the driver is of low strength, so you need to take more care of him." Hearing this, Zuyun was greatly surprised. In Yeazhu, the people who hear the most are those with high realms, and monks with low realms are always regarded as ants. Do people care about the life and death of ants? Obviously not. But between the lines of Elder Yan's words, he revealed a completely different attitude from that of the Ya realm monks. At the auction venue at first, Mr. Wu didn't regard those in the Danjing stage of Wanjianshan as human beings. He interrupted with a slap in the face. Zuyun felt that the world of immortality was all the same. Even when Elder Yan was in tit-for-tat with Yu's Haibai, he felt that Elder Yan had a bad temper and was hard to talk to. But along the way, I had a lot of chats with Elder Yan, and I knew that he was a temperamental person. But now, he cared about the life and death of the driver, Xiaoxiu, which made him even more fond of Elder Yan. Could it be that all the Fire Dragon sect are like this? He couldn't help but think of Ye Xianming and Sangu. But he soon felt relieved. Ye Xianming was from Yeazhu, so he was naturally different from the Peeper realm monks, so he resented Sangu for stopping him at that time. "No need to worry, little friend Chen. I will protect him at night, and you can just stay in the carriage without any worries." Elder Yan saw Zuyun meditating and thought he was worried about the danger at night. Zuyun smiled and said, "It doesn't matter, since there is no danger, you can also take a look at the night view of the countryside in Peeper realm. Little friend Chen has a very clear mind." Elder Yan praised, then took out the Chaos Sword and threw it back to Zuyun. Zuyun was stunned and said strangely, "Elder Yan, this sword." During the auction, the reason why Zuyun took out the Chaos Sword to bid was actually because he could take it back at any time. He didn't know if the sword spirit recognized him as its master, but he could guarantee that he could bring the Chaos Sword into the Immortal Mansion at any time. In order to save Qiu Qi, he completely planned to play a game of empty gloves and white wolf. As for whether the Chaos Sword was obtained by Elder Wu or Elder Yan, he didn't care at all. Since Yunzhou, he has been accustomed to intrigues, and he has no psychological burden at all about this kind of thing. But at this time, Elder Yan returned the Chaos Sword. "Ha ha ha, are you surprised?" Elder Yan touched his fiery red beard and said with a smile, "Although you and I can protect ourselves, there are always chances in everything. This sword is good, and it can still be effective if left at your place. Yan doesn't know swordsmanship. I made it clear to Mr. Wu before that I am interested in this sword because of the method of refining it." Zuyun was dumbfounded and thought to himself, "The Chaos Sword is an immortal sword, can you still understand the method?" But of course he couldn't show it on his face. He simply put away the sword and said with a meaningful smile, "Elder Yan, aren't you afraid that I will run away with this sword?" "You are not that kind of person." Elder Yan shook his head and did not take Zuyun's words to heart. He pointed at his eyes and said, "It is true that you chose me to get 100 more fire dragon pills. But Yan can see that you are different from ordinary Ya realm monks." Zuyun was stunned. Elder Yan immediately explained and said, "Yan has lived for nearly 1,000 years and has met many Yeazhu monks. They all have one characteristic, which is, greed. Zuyun didn't know why, so he asked, Elder Yan, wasn't I also greedy for 100 fire dragon pills? Ha ha ha, Elder Yan laughed and said, greed is human nature. But in a sense, you are not greedy for the sake of greed. What do you mean by this? Chen Xiao, you actually agree with what Yan said, right? It's actually very simple. The auction venue is all here for the demon fox. As for why, everyone present knows it well. But you are different. You want to save that demon fox. Hearing this, Zuyun was shocked. He couldn't figure out where he had exposed his secret, and he couldn't help but become a little nervous. Little friend Chen, Elder Yan was talking to himself, not noticing the slight change in Zuyun's expression. He smiled and said, there is no lust in your eyes, which shows that your motives are different from those of the monks. Secondly, under the same circumstances, a normal monk would naturally choose to maximize his profits. This black sword can be exchanged for 100 more fire dragon pills, so why not? Zuyun was silent for a moment. These days, there are not many Yaesu monks who are kind to others. By the way, after you go to the fire dragon sect, you must not release the demon fox, otherwise I will not be able to pass the sect master level. When I have the opportunity, I will take you go to Shiwanda mountain to collect herbs, and then release them. Elder Yan quickly reminded. Zuyun had indeed thought about how to let Qiu Qi go back after rescuing her. It would take a lot of time to return to Yaesu and then Chuzhu. Hearing what Elder Yan said, he immediately relaxed a lot. With Elder Yan's help and cover, he could save a lot of energy. Only. Elder Yan, does Shiwanda mountain also have the elixir that the fire dragon sect needs? He was a little strange. The spiritual power in Peepa realm was much stronger than that in Chuzhu, so why did he go so far away? Ha ha ha, Elder Yan laughed loudly and said, next time Xiao Chen has similar questions, don't ask other people in the sect to avoid exposing the secret. You can go directly to Shiwanda mountain in the Peepa realm. What? Zuyun's eyes suddenly widened, but after thinking about it in his mind, it seemed that it was really possible. He came from Peepa territory in the far east of Yaesu, and Shiwandashan was in the far west of Chuzhu. But the Peepa realm is north of the two states. Maybe this was influenced by Yayong. Yayong walked out of Shiwanda mountain and took the sea route to Yunzhou, then from Yunzhou to Yaesu, and finally from Yaesu to Peepa kingdom. Zuyun couldn't help but touch his nose. Everyone knows about the Peepa realm, so it's embarrassing for little friend Chen. Elder Yan smiled and patted Zuyun's shoulder again, but he didn't mean anything else. He also told Zuyun what to pay attention to after joining the sect, and the carriage stopped just in time. Then, Xiao Xiu's signal came from outside the carriage, indicating that he had arrived at the sleeping area. The two got off the car one after another and stayed in the car for a long time, feeling somewhat depressed. Zuyun held the chaos sword in his hand. Thinking that there was no one around, he decided to call Qiu Qi out of the beast-controlling bag to have a look. If it is really her, you can let her stay in peace for now and find a chance to let her go home. Although it was 9 out of 10 that it was Qiu Qi, Zuyun had not seen it with his own eyes after all. The beast control bag is just an ordinary magic weapon. Even if it belongs to Zuyun, he can only know that it is a demon fox. Elder Yan, should I go over there and take a look? Zuyun took the initiative to say hello to Elder Yan. Go ahead. Elder Yan waved his hand casually, not worried that Zuyun would take the opportunity to escape. This kind of unwarranted trust made Zuyun feel a little embarrassed. Out of the sight of the two of them, Zuyun took advantage of the cover of the night to release the demon fox from the beast control bag. Who would have thought that as soon as the little fox landed on the ground, he would rush towards the forest? Good guy. Zuyun concentrated his mind, and immediately poured his spiritual consciousness over, locked on the demon fox, and then shouted, Qiu Qi, it's me. Started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 440. Qiuqi can understand human speech. Hearing someone suddenly call out his name, he couldn't help but be shocked and stopped subconsciously. Looking back, I felt that the outline of the figure was extremely familiar. It's strange, wasn't I captured by those unscrupulous monks? Shouldn't we be in Peeper Realm? How could we meet him? Are you experiencing hallucinations? Qiuqi, you don't recognize me anymore? In the Shiwen Mountains, I saved you once. Seeing Qiuqi not moving, Zuyun said again. Squeak. At this time, Qiuqi recognized Zuyun's voice, and he didn't know what he was thinking. He ran back to Zuyun with his short legs, and climbed up on his shoulder in 3 times. Smelling the familiar scent, Qiuqi was extremely happy. 3 foxtails hung behind Zuyun's shoulders and swayed back and forth. Qiuqi, I bought you here. If I have a chance, I will put you back in the 100,000 mountains. Zuyun reached out and patted Qiuqi's head gently, trying to reassure her. Qiuqi tilted his head, feeling that something was wrong. Suddenly I remembered it, but no human race has ever known my name. Just as he was surprised, a huge fire suddenly appeared in the valley not far away. The fire shot up into the sky, as if it hit something, and there was a loud roar. Is there anyone? Zuyun was shocked, and quickly stretched out his hand to pinch the back of Qiuqi's neck, and said urgently, you go back to the bag first, and I'll go take a look. Before Qiuqi could react, he was put into the bag by Zuyun. Zuyun quickly ran towards the valley. After about 100 steps away, Elder Yan's roar came over. Use Haibai, I know it's you. Is it him? Listening to Elder Yan's words, Zuyun's heart trembled. Is he that person from the demon control holy sect? How could he possibly catch up here? Ha ha ha. While he was in shock and doubt, Yu's Haibai's voice sounded from all directions. As expected of Elder Yan, he was able to recognize Yu first. Originally, Yu only had to rob that boy's demon fox and return, but now, he has to kill someone to silence him. The unbridled laughter showed that Yu's Haibai was sure of victory. Zuyun felt that he couldn't show up at this time, but he thought that Yu's Haibai might have just arrived, otherwise how could he not know that he was not in the valley? Yu's Haibai, Yan knows that you are amazingly powerful, but since Yan dares to go out alone, don't you have some skills to save your life? If you want to kill Yan, just come here. Elder Yan was extremely calm, while Zuyun used the Shattering Void Spirit Eye technique to find Yu's Haibai's location first. He came here for Qiuqi. If he couldn't find Qiuqi, he would definitely give up. Yan Laoxi. Yu's Haibai calmly shouted, I know that you are powerful and your fire tactics are powerful. Do you think that I will fight you head on? The most important thing our demon controlling sect lacks is demons that we can control. While he was talking, he heard the sound of wind all around him. Immediately afterwards, several majestic demonic powers appeared out of thin air. Apparently Yu's Haibai summoned the monster and wanted to besiege Elder Yan. Humph, Elder Yan snorted coldly, seeming to be disdainful, but he did not dare to relax at all. Just because Zuyun was not in the valley, he could just ignore it. But considering that Zuyun is only in the early stage of forming a pill, since Yu's Haibai has chased him here, he must have a unique way to find people, and Zuyun will have nowhere to escape by then. Then Yan wants to see how many monsters Yu's Haibai, have that I can kill. While speaking, Yan Laoxi recited the magic formula, and a flame quickly appeared all over his body, and he instantly turned into a burning man. Even though Zuyun was still far away, he still felt this powerless fire power. He has faced many enemies who are at the peak of the late stage of forming pills, but none of them has the momentum of Yan Laoxi. Yan Laoxi, since you dared to kill me, I have naturally made complete preparations. However, Yu has no grudges against you and is only here for the demon fox. If you hand over the boy and the demon fox, then Black you can take the sword and we will be fine. Hearing this sudden change of tone, Yan Laoxi was slightly startled. Unexpectedly, Yu's Haibai was waiting for this opportunity. Kill him for me. With a command, countless black shadows rushed over from the darkness just like Yu's Haibai's voice. Yan Laoxi, covered in flames, is undoubtedly a live target in the eyes of these monsters. But what surprised Zuyun was, weren't these monsters afraid of fire? Even he could feel that Yan Laoxi's fire was possessed by earthly fire and was extremely lethal. He even had a feeling that Yan Laoxi's spirit-controlling fire technique was much better than his own. Zuyun really wanted to see how Yan Laoxi would deal with those monsters, but he also knew that for him at this time, it was best to find Yu's Haibai's location first. But after searching everywhere, I still found nothing. And those monster beasts, under the light of the fire, revealed their ferocious faces. Xiaoxiu, who was driving the car, had already hid in the carriage compartment. Not to mention participating in the fight, the spiritual power and demonic power here are so strong that he will die if he touches them. Zuyun was extremely anxious, but he also knew that the more anxious he was, the less likely he would be to find Yu's Haibai's location. But so many monsters have already surrounded Yan Laoxi. Some even chose to attack the carriage, frightening the spirit horse, pulling the carriage to the ground and trembling. Monsters, monsters, by the way, don't I have monsters too? Zuyun's eyes suddenly lit up, and he summoned Zhao Kamang out without hesitation. Did you see the front? Kill all the monsters. Before Zhao Kamang could finish speaking, Zuyun raised his hand again and summoned 100 monster beasts at once that were comparable to those in the late stage of pill formation. These all came out of the demon refining tower and finally surrendered to Zuyun. Zhao Kamang's eyes flashed red, and with a low roar, all these monsters rushed over and killed them. Huh! There was a soft cry in the sky. It's Yu's Haibai. Zuyun looked over immediately, but still found nothing. Obviously, Yu's Haibai used a method that could evade his void-breaking spirit eye technique. But he was very sure. Because this sound, unlike the previous sounds, did not come from all directions. Zhao Kamang did not step forward in person, but roared and commanded these monsters to attack. Although his level is low, he has experienced hundreds of battles. In the wild sea, he has fought against the sea monster for countless years, so he has a lot of experience. And in the pasture, he held the black whip in his hand and had already established his authority in front of these monsters. Zuyun's demonic beasts were so powerful that they moved forward without hesitation and soon surrounded the demonic beasts surrounding Yan Laoxi. Where do these monsters come from? Yu's Haibai's voice talking to himself sounded, and this time, Zuyun determined his position through the voice. He instantly grabbed a few heaven-gathering thunder talismans and quickly threw them out. Boom! There were several thunders in the night sky. No, someone attacked. Yu's Haibai has extraordinary abilities. As soon as the thunder rang, he felt something was wrong. His figure emerged from the darkness and immediately ran away into the distance. The thunder failed, but Zuyun showed a smile as if his plot had succeeded. The sky thunder was just something he used to force Yu's Haibai. His abilities are all about monsters. If I fight up close, let's see how he can deal with it. With a thought in Zuyun's mind, when the thunder on the Chaos Sword exploded, Zuyun had already rushed into the air, and slashed Yu's Haibai down with his sword. Boy, it's you. Feeling the boundless sword energy and lightning aura, Yu's Haibai screamed in anger and quickly dodged. As soon as he arrived, he immediately attacked Yan Laoxi. Xiaoxiu, who was driving the car, reacted very quickly and immediately got into the car. Yu's Haibai thought he was Zuyun. But when I saw him now, I knew I was careless. But fortunately, Yu's Haibai was not one of his peers. He quickly fell to the ground and barely managed to avoid Zuyun's sword. Zuyun had long been prepared to miss the blow and bullied him again. But Yu's Haibai waved his hand again, and a huge beast appeared out of thin air and stopped in front of him. There was a huge roar and the mountains shook, and the giant palm struck Zuyun head-on. Secret of immortality. Zuyun knew that he could never let Yu's Haibai distance himself. Only by fighting closely could he close the gap between the two. So he did not choose the thunder escape technique, but took the steps of the immortality technique. On the edge of the giant palm, Kankan fell down from Zuyun's side, and a big crater was instantly created on the ground. At the same time, he used the momentum of the giant palm to cover his body, swaying continuously, and passed directly under the body of the monster. With a flash of movement, the next sword was pointed directly at Yu's Haibai's throat. Damn it! Yu's Haibai never expected that Zuyun would react so quickly, and his expression finally changed. In desperation, he flicked his sleeves. Whoosh! A black light also rushed towards Zuyun's throat. This is a lose-lose approach.